Welcome to another Thursday night Bible study, brought to you as a ministry of SIGBC.
Today we continue with question number 2. Now we last week began a new series based upon our group 90-day Bible challenge, where individuals within the group ask questions and then we discuss these questions and answer the questions if we can. And so today's question is, while we're reading through the Old Testament, of course, and the question arose while we were reading through the laws of Moses. And so the question was, some of the laws I still can't figure out why God would command. Be holy as I am holy came up multiple times in yesterday's reading, which gives us a hint to the purpose and applies even to us today, when many of these Old Testament laws simply don't. And so a quick answer to this question about the Old Testament laws and whether or not they apply to us, or if they do, how they apply to us. The answer is multifaceted, actually. So the four main general reasons for the laws in the Torah, otherwise known as the books of the law or the Pentateuch or the books of Moses, the four main reasons, general reasons for the law, were number one, morality, standards of morality for the Jews. Number two was, in numerous occasions, you find references to hygiene and health. And then number three was regulations concerning fairness and holiness. And of course, number four was relational regulations between the Israelites and God, and between Israelites and others, including regulations about marriage and divorce, among many other regulations. And so one of the purposes that was stated specifically in the Old Testament was that the law was given as to the Jews as a basis for their pursuing a relationship with God. There were also stipulations concerning three more things. That is, number one, priestly regulations, were all the things that the priests were supposed to do in service to God. The second was structural regulations concerning places and instruments used in worship. And of course, the third was regulations concerning clothing and supplies for priestly duties. And so there were very specific as well as general reasons for the giving of the law in the Old Testament. Moses explained in Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 20 through 21, and then verse 24 and 25, in the future, when your son asks you, what is the meaning of the stipulations, decrees, and laws of the Lord our God has given to you, then tell him, we were slaves of Pharaoh in Egypt, but the Lord brought us out of Egypt with a mighty hand. The Lord commanded us to obey all these decrees and to fear the Lord our God, so that we might always prosper and be kept alive, as is the case today. And if we are careful to obey all this law before the Lord our God, as he has commanded us, that will be our righteousness. So Moses understood that these laws were simply relational laws that were given as a basis of the covenant relationship that God had entered with Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, the children of Israel, the 12 tribes of Israel, and their descendants. And then the covenant he had made with Moses, and he would later make with David. And so, based upon this covenant relationship that the children of Israel had with God, and that Moses was then exchanging with God in the receiving of the law that he was giving to the children of Israel, it was a relational law. And in Deuteronomy chapter 9, verse 5 and 6, Moses explains, it is not because of your righteousness or your integrity that you are going in to take possession of the land that God has promised you. But on account of the wickedness of these nations, the Lord your God will drive them out before you, to accomplish what he swore to your fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. Understand then that it is not because of your righteousness that the Lord your God is giving you this good land to possess, for you are a stiff-necked people. So he concluded chapter 6, verse 25, by saying, as you are careful to obey all the law before the Lord our God, as he has commanded us, that will be our righteousness. In other words, we obey because we love God and we desire to do what God desires of us. So it's a relational law. Also, in Deuteronomy chapter 11, verse 1, and then we'll skip down to verse 13 and 14 and verse 16, we read, love the Lord your God and keep these four things. He says, love the Lord your God, and based upon that love for the Lord your God, keep his requirements, his decrees, his laws, and his commands always. So whatever it is that God requires of you, whatever it is that he has decreed to be true, whatever he has given as a law to be followed, and whatever commands he has expressly expressed, keep them. Then he says two more things. So if you faithfully obey the commands I am giving you today, 1, to love the Lord your God, and 2, to serve him with all your heart and with all your soul, the result being, then I will send rain on your land in its season, both autumn and spring rains, so that you may gather your grain, new wine, and olive oil. Be careful, or you will be enticed to turn away and worship other gods and bow down to them. So the Mosaic laws were always primarily about the relational expression of worship through obedience. Later on, Jesus continued this same expression, only he said, you are my friends if you do what I command. And this is what I command, love one another. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. Love one another. So the commands to the Israelites were for them to be able to express in a physical and tangible way their relationship, covenant relationship with God, through their obedience. And then we have been given the grace of God because of Christ's work on the cross on our behalf, so that now we can freely come before God. But still we are called on the same basis to come before God with a heart of love, which is why, again, Jesus emphasized, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, as was read in Deuteronomy, and love your neighbor as yourself, because on these two commands hang all the law and the prophets. The intention of the law and the prophets was so that we would be able to express, the Jews will be able to express their love for God in a tangible way. And we are supposed to express from our hearts, through our actions, of doing what is right, of loving one another, of being kind, compassionate, and forgiving. We are to, in that way, express our love for God. So why is the law given? For a tangible way for the Jews to express their relationship with God.
Thank you for listening. You can also join us in person or live on Facebook every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Japan time. This has been a ministry of Sakahogi International Grace Baptist Church.